Right. Have you been in this situation, or are you in the situation where you can afford the mortgage, but you just can't get the deposit together? Now, today I'm going to talk about situations where you've earning good money, but for one reason or another, you haven't got the 5% deposit, or you have no deposit at all. So you've got some deposits, very little, or 5%, or like with me, I remember when I first bought at the ripe old age of 22, I'd had savings. And but then when I found out how much the solicitor was going to cost, how much the stamp duty was going to possibly be, how much, a mortgage broker was, and all of those other costs of moving, of everything else, I kind of realized that most of my deposit would have gone on that. And then I didn't really have a deposit. So I had to keep on saving for a little bit longer than I fully intended to. But there are mortgages out there, and they're called a guarantor mortgage. And the way a guarantor mortgage works is, what happens is it's based on you being able to afford 100% of the mortgage. So, for example, if you're on 25 or 30K, they'd calculate how much you would be able to afford if you were going to take on 100% of the mortgage. But it is a guarantor mortgage. And the way that works is hopefully a kind relative, normally your parents, or if the roles are reversed, your kids possibly, could act as a guarantor. And what happens is, if you're buying a property, say for 300,000, they would actually take, even though your mortgage is going to be for 300,000, the actual loan you're going to be paying off every month is 300,000. What they'll do is they'll go to your guarantor and they'll say to them, we need to put a second charge. Well, I say second charge, it's just a charge on their property of 20%. And it's not 20% of the value of their property, it's 20% of the mortgage that you are taking out, of the value of the property you're taking out. So in this scenario, when it's 300,000, they would be putting down 60,000. Now, the 60,000 charge would go on their property. Now, how this works is, it just sits there as a debt outstanding. It doesn't include any interest. It doesn't have to be paid off every month like a loan. It just literally sits there. And the only time that it would affect anything is if the person, so say your parents in this example, who are actually being a guarantor for you, if they had a mortgage of, say, 100,000 on their property, and then they went to do a remortgage, it would be based on them paying the 100 plus the 60. They would have to make sure that they can afford all of that. The other thing is, if you want to sell the property, then that 60K needs to be factored in from the point of view of, it needs to be moved to another property, or we need to remortgage the client off the guarantor mortgage. Unfortunately, when you have that second charge, it needs to stay there. So you need a property that it's allocated to. But the good thing is, as I said, you can get 100% mortgage, and the 60K just sits there. It's not like a loan that needs to be paid. So if your parents are mortgage free, or they've got a small mortgage that they don't need to remortgage anytime soon, then it can just literally sit there, be it 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, till you're ready to actually stand on your own 2 feet and have a standard mortgage. But at the end of the day, the other good thing about it is, within that time, the likelihood is your property would have gone up. And if your property is now worth 350, then you have 50,000 worth of equity in it. So you automatically have that difference. So you can remortgage, change from a guaranteed mortgage to a standard mortgage, and then you haven't got any issues. Now, with guarantor mortgages, depending on the lender, there will be different criteria to who can actually take up that guarantor. There's even a situation where you can put down, they can again do the 20% charge, and you can put down a 5% deposit. And then that way you're not having 100% mortgage. And the reason why you'd have a guarantored mortgage with the 20% and the 5%, as opposed to just a normal 5%, there aren't always 95% loans with the 5% deposit. And also, depending on your affordability and stuff like that, people aren't always comfortable lending you the 95. So what may happen is they might lend you 95, but not the amount that you want. The affordability might be a little bit less. But with the guarantor, because they know that 20% is going to be a second charge against someone's property, they are likely to lend you a little bit more. So where they may have lent you, for example, 4.5 times your salary, they may lend you 5 times your salary. It is more than just your salary, though. It's an actual stress test. And how that works is they look at your income, they look at your committed expenses, and then in the background they do multiples. So it's not a straight 4.5 times your salary or 5 times your salary. Now, this is a really, really good mortgage to have if you don't have a deposit and you want to move quickly. A lot of people out there are looking at interest rates and trying to figure out when's the best time to buy. Some people just have, like, say, for example, come straight out of uni, gone on to a really good starting salary, but do not have any deposit because they've never earned before. This is a very good mortgage for them. So yeah, that's a guarantored mortgage. And if you've got any questions, or you're not sure, or you've got any comments or anything, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I can go over it for you. If you want to find out any more about mortgages and money matters, by all means, subscribe, press the bell, and when I'm going to do a new video, you will be advised. I'm here just to give knowledge, because I believe everyone has a right to own their own home. So my name's Amanda Walker, and I'm the mortgage coach.